Hi, I'm Ray with yet another podcast episode. I think it must be over 30 now. Now, I've been asking people for suggestions, and one or two I can't mention, but we've had various things. Someone said about space travel. Let's talk about space travel. I don't know much about that. That was Ian. Don't know much about that, Ian. Not sure what to say about space travel, really. I know they're off to Mars, aren't they? Or going to be off to Mars before too long. Possibly with a manned craft, I don't know. Helen had a good idea. Helen from Shoeberry Nest? That's a good name, isn't it? Shoeberry Nest. Wonder whether they sell shoes there. Helen said, why don't you just ramble on? And she didn't put as you usually do. That's what I was expecting when I read the email. Why don't you ramble on as you usually do? She said, just ramble on about whatever comes to mind and see what happens. That's a good idea, Helen. So that's what I'm doing this week. This is a ramble, not a rant, a ramble. What's the difference? I don't know. We've got a garden centre quite near to us, and it's really nice. The trouble is, we pop up there perhaps on a Sunday morning, have a cup of coffee. They've got a nice sort of coffee area and a soft play area for kids. Gets a bit busy, can't always get a table, but that's not the point. We go up there, we might want a large plastic flower pot for something or other or whatever we want. We go in there expecting to spend perhaps £3 or £4, and this has happened time and time again. We get home and I say, hang on a minute, we've spent £60. There was one time we got home, we spent £110. So we try not to go up there anymore. It's very tempting, isn't it? Oh, look at that. Oh, look, that's only £15. Look, that's reduced. Oh, look at that clock. Wouldn't that look nice in the garden, that outside clock? It's only £25, reduced from 40. But of course, we come home, we spent over £100. So we tend not to do that anymore. Potholes. That's just reminded me of potholes, because on the way to this garden centre, we have to veer left and veer right, swerve all over the road because of these potholes. They're getting worse and worse and worse. And I noticed in town yesterday, yes, I did go into town, something I've sworn never to do again, but I had to go into town yesterday. Well, I didn't have to. My wife wanted something down there, so I thought I'll drive down there. She can go and get what she wants while I sit in the car chatting on my amateur radio gear to my amateur radio friends. Of course, it was a bit early, so no one was around. And she said, look, let's go and have a coffee. The shops aren't open yet. Let's go and have a coffee. So we went into this place. I don't know what it was called. Went into this place. There's a few weird people in there. There was one more weird person in there when I arrived. And there's this chap with huge holes. He was having a coffee, sitting down, in his earlobes. Massive holes with sort of black plastic rings. Someone said to me, oh, they're flesh tunnels. What's that about? Flesh tunnel. Apparently they're decorative. Anyway, that was that. So the girl brought our coffee over. She was quite nice, only young, late teens, early 20s, covered in tattoos, absolutely covered. I mean, it's fine, it's up to her. Nothing wrong with tattoos, I suppose, but she was such a pretty girl. And I just looked at her, I thought, well, what a shame, she's ruined her body. So, yeah, that was a shame, and it was cold in there. 2 coffees, £5. Is that about right? I mean, I don't know. Last time I had a coffee out, I think it was 1 and 6pence. So 2 coffees for a £5. Why do they come in soup bowls? I looked at it, I thought, hang on a minute, I didn't order soup, I ordered coffee. We got soup bowls. I don't know what that's all about. Very difficult to sort of drink your coffee. I'd rather have a mug. A good old mug with, I love New York written on it or something like that, a proper mug. Anyway, we had these soup bowls. The coffee was disgusting. I don't know why it was disgusting. It just was. Perhaps it's me. My wife reckons it's me. She drank hers. Hers was fine. Mine was disgusting. They must have done something to mine. Saw me coming and thought, here we go, look. We'll give this bloke some rotten coffee. We've got some old stuff there from yesterday. Warm that up, he can have that. So the potholes, while I was down the town, I noticed they're redoing all the pavements. And I'm watching this thinking, well, you're doing all this, spending a lot of money doing the pavements. What about the roads? The pavement was fine. The bit they're doing was fine. I don't know what they're doing it for, but they're redoing it, making it all fancy, is it, with cobble-type bricks, or I don't know what they're doing, spending loads of money. And while they're doing that, there's cars getting flat tyres and wrecked suspension and stuff on the potholes just down the road. What is going on? on social media we pass information around about potholes. Watch that roundabout, the one there, watch that roundabout. There's a huge pothole as you come off that one. Or the one on the way up to the supermarket, there's one on the left. Yeah, that's it, just by that site. Yeah, keep away from that. People sort of pass information around on social media now about potholes. When we go up to the supermarket, I do the driving. My wife's looking at the road, because it's difficult when you're driving along. You try to see the traffic, you're checking the rear view mirror. You can't also, well, you can, I suppose, but it's not safe, check the road for potholes. So she looks for potholes and she says, look, pothole there, and all this business. When we get to the supermarket, what's all this about toilet rolls now? Everyone's buying up toilet rolls. Why? What's that got to do with this coronavirus thing? The shelves are empty. I don't know what's going on. The hand sanitizer stuff, I can understand that. People are using that because that, will get rid of whatever it is on your hands, any germs and stuff like that. But toilet rolls, what the earth people are buying those up for? Maybe all I can think of is maybe they're thinking, well, if I'm sort of self-isolating for a fortnight or a month, I've got to have toilet rolls, so I better stock up on those. What I stock up on is beer and bread. That's all I need. Beer and bread, that'll last me a month. Supermarkets, dreadful. Oh, I just hate going there. We usually have deliveries, but of course then you can't, if you have it delivered, you can't choose the stuff yourself. What tends to happen is you get the stuff that's out of date tomorrow, or there's just a couple of days left on it. Mind you, that's all rubbish, isn't it? All this out of date stuff. When I was a boy, here we go, when I was a boy, you get a bit of cheese out of the larder, didn't have a fridge, and there's green mould and sort of fur, penicillin type stuff growing on it. What you do is you slice that off, and the cheese underneath is fine. I mean, you tell people that these days, oh, I'm not eating that, I'm not touching that. All these dates, I think, are a bit silly. It's got out of hand. So much stuff, sell by date. Oh, look, that was 2 days ago. We've had stuff, oh, look, it was out of date a week ago. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I don't know what's happened these days with all this food and hygiene. My old nan, in her larder, I remember when I was a kid, in her larder, no fridge, of course, back in those days, she had this bowl of dripping, which is absolutely disgusting. Bowl of dripping, and there's flies all round it. And she had this sort of half a dead carcass chicken thing. I think it was cooked, or was it? I can't remember. And there's flies all round that. And of course they'd eat this stuff. They didn't have hand sanitizer and all this business. I reckon they had all this sort of dirt and germs around. Not dirt, I don't mean like filth that you haven't cleaned your house, but bacteria stuff and whatever it is, all these germs. They must have had loads of that all over the place, and they weren't aware of it. And I reckon that gave them some sort of helped their immune system. So when a cold or a virus came along, the body could fight that off. Whereas these days, everything, look at the adverts. Oh, spray this, your child's high chair, spray that with special high chair spray, which is probably just the same as sink spray and toilet spray. It's all in different bottles. What a load of rubbish, isn't it? All this hygiene stuff. Don't touch anyone. Well, I don't know what's going to happen in future. People will be afraid they'll get married and have separate rooms. They won't have kids. Oh, no, I can't have any of that. Can't go near you. Oh, goodness me. Bodily fluids. Oh, no, I've got to spray you first. Yeah, there'll be we won't go into that. But imagine that, special sprays. Have you seen on Twitter, various videos are appearing, fights in supermarkets? I saw a couple this morning. Women fighting over toilet rolls. One's snatching it from the other, one's getting a punch in the face. Goodness me, they're only toilet rolls and they're actually fighting. I've seen, half a dozen now of these videos. Some of them are quite vicious. I don't know what's going on there. Toilet rolls. Is it worth fighting for them? And the hand sanitizer stuff. Well, I heard yesterday, people are stealing them from hospitals. They're going into the hospital, ripping these things off the wall. And nicking them. Oh, good grief, what are people like? Of course, the parking down the town was absolutely atrocious. There was a dust cart parked in the middle of the road. I don't know what they were doing. We waited and waited and waited. Eventually had to reverse. Went round the block, nowhere to park. The dust cart was blocking a one-way street to where there were some places. When we got back, there's half a dozen cars in front, all waiting for the dust cart to move. Eventually, these two refuse men, or whatever they're called these days, They came, I reckon they'd been having a coffee in this cafe. I didn't see them come out of the cafe, so I won't say that. But, well, we'll say that. I reckon they were in the cafe. They left the dust cart in the middle of the street. Anyway, they rushed off and moved this damn thing, and I finally got a parking space. There's something wrong with downtown parking. People are saying we want more people to go downtown. Let's attract more people to get into the town and liven up the high street and stuff. Then they charge you daft money to park your car. I don't know why they don't. They should have free parking. Free for a couple of hours or something like that, just so people can get down there and support local businesses. But now, there we are. What's the point? What's the point of moaning? I mean, I never moan. What about this weather we've had? What about this rain? Goodness me. It has rained and rained, and it's non-stop. It really is non-stop. We had a nice day, when was it? Thursday? Sunshine. I was out in the garden, did a bit of sweeping up. The sun was actually warm on my back. That lasted a few hours, if that. Then there it was again. Down came the rain. Do you remember that song? It's happened again. Anyway, it lashed with blue sky now. Blue sky, where are we? Sunday morning. This podcast should have been on an hour ago. Who can I blame for that? Well, me, I suppose. There's no one else to blame. I blame the government. Yeah, the podcast is late because I blame the government. Everyone blames the government. Isn't it funny? It doesn't matter what happens. Oh, look, it's raining. Well, it's the government's fault. But that's always been the way. That's nothing new. I've heard people say, why do people blame the government? They always have. They've always blamed the government. Hang on. Here comes no, it's raining. I don't believe it. It's raining. I could see blue sky out of the window and it's lashing with rain. Here we go again. Oh, dear me. I must say, though, where we are, we haven't been flooded. I mentioned this the other week, didn't I? We've not been flooded, so I can't complain. Those poor people that have had their houses flooded, 3 times in a month? Something like that. Again, I mean, they blame the government for that. Well, I don't know. They were building defences. Someone said, well, they hadn't finished the flood defences, and that was the government's fault. I don't know. Maybe that's what the government's there for, to blame. Do you think that's right? Anything goes wrong, oh, well, that's the government. A friend of mine used to blame the Chinese. When I was a kid, he always said, I blame the Chinese. Whatever happened, I blame the Chinese. I don't know what they'd done to him. Do you remember that podcast I did? Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, that episode? The Lost Soul or something, wasn't it? About Rachel, the ghost. Do you remember that, by the farm gate? A friend of mine, Roy, he saw that and he said, what's all this about Rachel? Because there was something, I can't remember what I put. He said, what did you do with Rachel? I didn't do anything with Rachel. He hadn't heard it at the time when we were chatting about it, and he said, well, this one sounds interesting. I'm going to listen to see what you got up to with Rachel in the woods. Roy, I didn't get up to anything with Rachel in the woods. She was a ghost. He's now listened to the podcast, but that was funny. A few friends of mine have said, what do you do these podcasts for? Do you get money out of it? How much do you get? I don't get any money out of it. It costs me money. I do them because it's good fun, isn't it? I enjoy it, and I've got quite a few people now that, do they follow or subscribe, or I don't know what they do, but they email me, they message me, and they say, well, that was rubbish, or I like this one, or why don't you do this, and why don't you do that? As I said earlier, some of the suggestions I can't actually repeat. Talking of potholes, had a puncture in the car not so long ago. Damn nuisance. We haven't got a spare wheel. I mean, what's the point of having a car and no spare wheel? So we just sort of limped home. Luckily, we were only a couple of streets away. Limped home on this flat tyre and phoned around various places. We haven't got a spare wheel. What do we do? Can you come out to us? Of course, they were saying, oh, no, we don't do that. You have to come to us. These tyre places. They don't come out and pick up your car or anything like that. Anyway, one of them said, oh, look, phone this number. This is a bloke that'll come round. He'll change the tyre for you at home, at your home. So we phoned him. Anyway, long story, we had it done. The tyres are 50 quid. That's normally what we spend, 50 quid on a tyre. £112. What? You're having a laugh, aren't you? How much? £112? He said, well, it's because I have to come out. Yeah, I suppose he had to come out. He's got his van all equipped. He's self-employed and stuff. But it's not his fault. It's the car manufacturer. What happened to the spare wheels? Why don't we have spare wheels anymore? And if you do have a spare wheel in your car, it's one of these thin ones. They're almost like bicycle wheels that are just to get you to the local garage or whatever. I suppose that's better than nothing. But what a con. All the old cars had spare wheels. I should have mentioned that in last week's episode, shouldn't I? That's progress for you. Progress. Yeah, have you listened to that one yet? Have a listen to the last week's podcast. That's Progress. Progress. Honestly, the dipstick, right? I want to check the oil. I want to check the engine oil. The dipstick, and I've looked this up online. Apparently my particular make and model of car is well known for this. It's a known problem. You pull the dipstick out, you wipe it off, stick it back in, pull it out to see what the oil is. It's about a foot up the dipstick, the oil. You can't actually measure it properly at the bottom, because when you pull it out, it's all up, it's everywhere, all over the dipstick. So it doesn't work properly, and it's a known problem. I don't know why. What's the point? You can't check the oil. Progress, yeah. Modern cars. Have you noticed all the dashboards are grey plastic? Drab, dull, grey plastic. They used to have wooden dashboards in the old days. Even if it was just sort of veneer wood, walnut or something, it looked absolutely beautiful. But now it's just all drab, grey plastic. Look at the cars. I was thinking the other day while I was in a traffic jam, looking at the cars, they're all horrible coloured. They're all black, grey. You get a few white ones. Of course, they're filthy because of all the weather we've had. There's the seagulls. Yeah. Oh, and we got a wood pigeon this time. That's a new one. And there goes a squirrel. Oh, surrounded by wildlife, which is nice. Yeah, I don't know why they don't have a little bit of colour on things. Oh, clothes. Don't mention clothes. My wife goes out. She'll come back. She's bought a top. She's bought a skirt. She's bought this and that. You know, red, blue, green, lovely colours. I go down the town. I want some clothes. What have we got? Grey jackets, grey trousers, jeans were kind of dark maroon, dark blue, grey, black. No colour. You know, I like a bit of colour in my life, don't you? Don't mention shoes. Oh, I used to go to Marks and Spencer's. Years, I'm going back years. 25 quid for a pair of slip-on shoes. They were great. Size whatever I was. Slip them. I didn't even have to try them on in the shop. That's my size. Up to the counter, 25 quid. I used to buy 2 pairs at a time. Great. And they were 25 quid for years. Now, oh no. Can't get slip-on shoes. If you can, they've got like tractor treads on them. Or the sole goes up the back. Don't you hate that? The sole, under the shoe, it runs under the shoe and then up the back. Someone said to me that's for driving. But what do I want that up the back for driving? Oh, well, where you rest your right foot on the floor. Yeah, well, what about my left foot? You don't want tractor treads up the back of your shoe. And from the side, they look like huge wedges, don't they? They're like 3 inches thick, the soles. Well, half an inch. They look awful. What happened to the old, just ordinary sort of supple leather slip-on shoes, which you're not walking on like 3 inches of rubber tractor tyre? Don't do them anymore. That's progress for you. Should have done that one last week's. But you know what I mean? Everything has changed, hasn't it? And I don't know. I think it's not for the better at all. Well, I'll tell you what, we can't blame the government for this podcast episode. I blame Helen. Helen, if you're listening, this was your idea. You said, oh, just rant about, or what you said, moan about whatever comes to mind. Well, I have been. The weather, the cars, the potholes, coffee. Here we go. Do you hear that? I've got a news flash. Hang on, let's check my phone. I bet that's something dreadful. Panic and confusion as Italy suddenly put 16 million people on lockdown until April. Well, that's this virus thing. Good grief. I think what I'll do is I'll go down to my garden shed, take a month's supply of beer and bread, and I won't come out. So there won't be a podcast next Sunday. It'll be a month. I'm going to go and hide in the potting shed. No, there we are. Hope you enjoyed this. And Helen, thanks for the idea. All complaints to Helen, please. I'll pass on the emails. There goes an aeroplane. You know why? Sun's come out. All the little aeroplanes come out of our local Shoreham Airport. Bit of sunshine, that's it. They all rush down there in their cars and fly around, buzz around in their planes. Oh dear. Happy days. See you next Sunday. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now.